just popping in to answer a really common baking question, which is when to dock and not to dock pie crust that you're par baking. So it's a very simple answer, and you can see here I have a pie crust that has not been docked but has been par baked beautifully. And then here I have a pie crust that has been docked and also obviously par baked beautifully. And you can see that there's very little difference between the two, except these have holes and these do not. And the only reason that you would not dock your pie crust is if you're going to put a liquid filling in. So for example, a pumpkin pie or a buttermilk pie, or any of those kind of like loose, liquidy fillings that could really seep through the crack, and then it's going to kind of go to the bottom and it's going to bake down there, and you're going to get this whole glued situation on the bottom, which you don't want, right? So for those kind of situations, you would use an undocked pie crust. And that way all the filling is going to stay inside the pie, and it's going to be happy and protected, and nothing's going to go wrong. And if you do have a filling that is, say, less liquidy, like for example, something that's maybe unbaked, like a French silk pie, or even a ganache, because ganache is, you know, while it is liquidy, it is not runny, it's very viscous, it's very thick, right? So it's not going to kind of go through those tiny little holes that you have at the bottom. And so I hope that answers your question on when to dock and when not to dock pie crust. If you want to see a tutorial on how to par bake a pie crust, that is up there. So now that you know when to dock and not to dock, let's talk about why you dock. So the reason you want to dock a pie crust is because it helps the steam escape from with the butter melting, and it creates steam, and that's what creates those beautiful flaky layers, but that steam has to escape somewhere. So docking and poking the holes into the pie crust is what allows that steam to escape in a controlled fashion. So that's obviously very ideal, and that's going to keep your pie crust from puffing on the bottom as it is, you know, par baked, especially after you remove the pie weights. So that is why docking is wonderful, but obviously it's not worth having that controlled steam escape if your filling is also going to escape through those same holes. So what do? You can, of course, par bake a pie crust by docking or not docking. I actually did not dock the pie crust that I did in the pie crust par baking tutorial. And so you just acknowledge that there's going to be perhaps a bit of puffing on the bottom of your pie dish. So, and all you have to do, and you can use like a towel to protect your hand, but you know, when you take it out of the oven, just kind of like gently press it down. So you're kind of allowing that steam to escape, or you're forcing it to, really. And no harm's gonna come. Nobody's gonna know. You know, you don't want to poke a hole in it, but you definitely want to just kind of, you can just kind of tap it down, and that'll allow the steam to escape, and no harm, no foul. The only other thing that sometimes happens when par baking, whether you dock or not dock, is that your pie crust can kind of like shrink down. And this is not just because you have overworked your dough or done something wrong. It could be because you baked it in a ceramic dish and the sides are, you know, slippery, and it's going to have a tendency to kind of come down the sides. Or you could have taken off of your pie weights a bit too early. So if you take those pie weights off, especially if you have not docked, then your pie crust isn't set, the crumb isn't set, and it's going to start to kind of, you know, relax on itself. You can't blame it for this. This is natural. It's gravity. We all feel that. So, you know, the only thing to do is to actually bake it with the beans longer and to use more beans. So fill that up to the brim, support the edges of your pie crust, and watch a beautifully baked pie crust come out.